I bet you've seen this online throughout the past year or two. People who promise that as long as you pray really hard, you'll never get COVID because that's not what God would allow for his people. Or that there were people who prophesied that Trump would become president again on his second run for re-election. Jesus would call these people false teachers. Check this out. In Matthew 7:15, it says this: "Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves." Dang. So back in Jesus' day, it's not really different than us. There were many people preaching sermons, people claiming that they heard a message from God. So the people that were listening to Jesus preach this message, they would have been already very used to and very familiar with receiving all kinds of Christian content, if you want to call it that. And this is the same, just like us. Same for us. Like any average day, whenever you go on YouTube or Instagram, you're going to find many people preaching from the Bible and other people claiming that they have some sort of prophecy about the future from God. This kind of content is everywhere. But what Jesus is trying to teach us is that even though there are people who preach sermons and claim to have a prophecy, we as Christians, every one of us, including me, we still have to be discerning about their message. We need to judge whether or not their message is from God or not, rather than just widely and openly accepting whatever they say as biblical truth. And that if it's not from God, we need to look out. We need to be careful about these preachers and these so-called supposed prophets. In verse 16 of the same chapter, in chapter 7, Jesus also says that we will know whether someone's message is true or not by looking at the fruit of their lives. So we can conclude whether what they're saying is biblical or not by seeing if what they preach is actually found in the Bible, or what they prophesy to happen, it actually happens. Just imagine this with me. Imagine if Paul, the Apostle Paul, he preaches this: every time you tithe, God promises to give you back everything that you gave the church. Well, in this case, according to what Jesus is teaching, Paul's message wouldn't be biblically true because that message is not found in the Bible. This would be considered a false teaching. That's not what Paul said, but that's just an example. Now imagine if in the Old Testament, prophets in the Old Testament, they prophesied Jesus is going to be born in Brooklyn rather than Bethlehem, which is where they prophesied for him to be born. Then their prophecy wouldn't be true because what they said would happen didn't happen and wouldn't happen. So this would be considered a false prophecy. So if this happens consistently, nowadays for us, with someone who's preaching or claiming to be a prophet or have some prophecy, Jesus is telling us to be cautious of these preachers and these prophets, because what false teachers and false prophets say directly affects and impacts our soul and our lives. They appear to be in sheep's clothing, but underneath it all, Jesus calls them wolves. They say things, in other words, that sound biblical and prophesy things that sound biblical, but they're not. So wouldn't you rather learn what the Bible is actually teaching rather than what someone else made up on their own? So every time we digest content from a preacher or hear a prophecy from someone, discern it. God may speak to you and it may be biblical, but you have to discern it. Go back to your Bible. See if what they say matches up with what you find in the Bible. And if not, be cautious of what you allow into your life. If you found this video valuable, you can give me a like and check out this next video right here. Thanks for your time. Have a good day.